to the Off the Lip Radio Show. I think we're in show number 390.
No, we went backwards.
We did?
We're like 386.
386
or
now?
7, I checked.
Okay, well we're moving up to the high 300s. We are excited to have everybody back tonight. We got a great show. The camera, which is not currently live on Santa Cruz Wave's Facebook page, and welcome everybody who's tuning in, is zoomed in on Martine Watkins. Welcome back to the show, Martine.
Is it Martine or Martine? What
is it?
I want to make sure we get it right.
Do I say that correctly?
Screw it up.
Very correctly. It's Martine.
Martine.
Martine. I almost went Martine today.
Martine. Welcome back, Martine.
Thanks for having me back.
You are a past mayor of the city of Santa Cruz.
Right.
You were a city councilwoman for how many years?
So I'm a city council member, vice mayor, mayor, and then now I'm currently a city council member also.
Wow.
Okay, keep going.
And this is going to remain like right here for the whole show.
You got it.
Okay.
Thank you. I remember last time I was not good.
Oh, Chiefs already. Hang on.
The Chiefs watching.
The Chiefs watching.
What?
All right, the Chiefs watching. We got to watch our P's and Q's deal.
Yeah. No more
Okay,
shows on the roof.
so just real quickly for the audience, for the chief, explain your current position and what you've been doing for the last few years in regards to the politics of Santa Cruz.
Okay. Well, where do I begin? So my current position is city council member on the Santa Cruz City Council, and it's my last year, so I've been on for now 4 years, so I'm in my 4th year of my term. It's a 4-year term. And we're elected at large. There's like 65,000 or so folks in Santa Cruz, so, you know, we get elected from the community as a whole at this time. And, you know, the last 4 years, you know, I feel really proud about a couple of things. One, I spent a good amount of time on this housing blueprint subcommittee, really looking at how to hear the voices of our community in regards to housing solutions. And we came up with a nice strategy for recommendations. So I feel really good about that work. But I think, you know, really the most, gosh, I mean, maybe it's fortuitous in terms of how it's played out now. It's the health and all policies work. Really looking about how are we as a community, how are we as a council, how are we responsible for designing a healthy community for our residents?
Right.
And that's one thing that I as mayor championed, and we have in place at this really pivotal time in our experience right now with the pandemic.
And you're signing up for an future election for another 4 years? Is that the plan?
I am.
And we know we've had guests that have been multi-term council people on the board. So you're having fun.
Wait, ask your husband that.
Yeah.
His husband's at home with 2 kids.
Is it fun to be on the council?
It is. I mean, you know, it's really the best thing about being. I have to say, I feel bad for our current mayor because you can't go out and like be with the people in the community and like. Santa Cruz is rad, and the people are amazing, and there's so many ways that people are giving to this community that it's, you know, we all contribute in a different way, and I love that, and that was the best for me. Is it fun? Sometimes. The 12-hour meetings, not so much.
Yeah, the meetings get contentious, it seems like.
Yeah.
Do we have, sometimes are you frustrated with the way people, I've seen people be mean.
Yeah.
Is that the hardest part?
There was a lot of contention going on for the last few years with council members that were there that weren't liked. They wanted, obviously they got them out of there.
Are you talking about the recall?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there were very contentious meetings that, you know, I don't think it's what our community wants or needs or deserves, frankly. It's not us being able to work together to try to move us in a direction that's going to do service to our residents. And I think that ultimately, you know, the community wants us to find ways to work together to meet the needs. And personally, I mean, over my year as mayor, I won't even go into the names that I was called, but I don't think that's productive. And I think it really shares the tenor of our federal commander-in-chief in some of the ways that he talks and the approaches, and it's not moving our country in a way that's bringing us together to help meet the needs of everybody, of all people. It's further stoking the fire of divide, and I think that Santa Cruz doesn't want that, nor do they deserve that. And so my hope and how I can control myself, so I understand, but I think we as leaders set the tone for our community, and so how do we show up in a way that's respectful, even if we disagree with our colleagues?
How thick was your skin since when you first started in community service?
You know, I don't think I could have ever prepared for my year as mayor, to be quite honest with you. it's really hard to be, as a person, nobody likes to be called names or to be accused of being something that you're not, or categorized as, evil or whatever it may be. Yeah, I mean, my skin definitely got bigger, I'd say.
Have you ever cried?
Yeah, oh, for sure. There was like a whole stage where I'd be sad, I'd come home, and I'd be like super mad, and I'd come home, and then like, I'd be like, okay, I just give up, I'm just do the best I can with it. Like, so there was like the stages of it. At the end of the day, I felt like if I don't show up as a person of integrity who wants to do the best I can, then that's on me. And so that's how I try to just show up every time.
Can you give TC and I that conversation you had, like a flyby of the conversation that you had with your husband when you said to him, I'm going to go back here for 4 more years? Can you
Did
like,
it go over well?
how did you sell that?
Brandon is super cool. You'd have to get him on. He's just so chill, super supportive. I mean, and he's such a good dad, and my kids are super supportive. He just knows that I deeply care about wanting to do good work, and he's down with me doing that. And, even through the stages of it all, he just sort of weathers it, just does his thing.
Does he go to the meetings?
No, he can't go to the meetings. I don't.
You won't let him?
No, he and my mom should not be going to the meetings.
They want to beat up people in the audience?
Yeah, they can watch if they want. It's hard to see somebody you love.
So we need to get Mom on here.
Yeah, she's amazing. That's my mom. My dad are great. They're really supportive.
If you win this next election, and there's 4 available seats, is that what's happening?
Yes.
And so you're going to vie for one of them.
That's right.
And then on the ballot, there'll be 4 votes that each, because I'm not in the city, so I don't get to vote.
Right.
But, so there'll be 4 people that will win.
Right.
Will you?
Encourage the other members and make you mayor again?
We have a rotating mayor that's been sort of just tradition, that if you're the top vote getter, essentially, that you would likely be mayor. And until that changes, and it could change, really, actually will likely change because we're being free to go to district elections, so that's going to change everything, really. But absent that change taking place, I hope that folks will follow tradition in regards to how we've done it in the past. I think it's right.
You want to be mayor again?
Sure. I mean, if the community wants me, of course I'd serve as mayor. It was an honor. I have to say, it was as difficult as it was with the meetings and some of just the vitriol and such that happened that year. It was a total honor to serve as mayor.
When you became mayor, were you like gung ho and I'm going to jump in here, I'm going to change everything? But then when you got in the pool, it was like putting your feet in cement. Was it like that at all?
I actually I feel really good about the stuff I got done, to be honest with you. And one of them, one of the things that I went in wanting to do when I decided to run for council was really look at how we as a government agency are responsible for determining the health of our residents. And so my year as mayor, I heard from our community, I met with the community, we did a survey, we looked at how we are integrating health into our decision making. How are we thinking about climate change and sustainability and resilience as we design policy? How are we influencing people's lives, all people's lives, and thinking about equity and where people are coming from? And as a result, we have a really great plan in place to help us be the healthiest city we can be. And so I feel it's really fortuitous in this moment to have that in place because, we have the foundation to really recover from this, with hopefully the Santa Cruz residents being the beneficiaries.
Well, the health of this county probably couldn't be more critical than this moment.
Right.
And we were doing so good with our health in this county,
Segueing into the coronavirus. What have you heard currently going on in Santa Cruz in regards to the coronavirus?
Gosh, it's probably pretty similar to everywhere, many other communities, I'd say. We're really looking at, our downtown and thinking about the businesses. A lot of our beloved businesses are struggling, many are closing, economic recovery. One of the things that we're seeing is just how those who've been struggling are struggling even more, and those who've been able to adapt can adapt. And we're seeing the differences of folks who've been able to work from home, for example, and still bring in a paycheck, but their jobs have allowed them to shift in that way, versus those who couldn't or lost their job, and then the food insecurity that is associated with that, or some of the stress that we're experiencing as families. You know, I work in education as well, and I was on a call today about how, you know, the child abuse and neglect, you know, those points of contact have been teachers mainly, and how with students not interacting with their teachers, how are we finding those students who are now experiencing that abuse at home? And so we, you know, we're seeing, I think, what we knew were some of those underlying inequities happening in our community. We're seeing those play out. But where the opportunity lies is for us to say, how can we bridge that now so that we have improved systems after this experience? And that's where I come from, wanting to serve again, because I feel like I can add a really powerful voice in that way.
The kids not going back to school is going to be a big problem, I think. You know,
Right.
there's no counseling, there's no, you know, there's interacting with other kids.
Right.
They get fed at school.
They get
Yeah.
fed at school.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
social services are at school.
Right.
Medical.
That's right.
I mean, we talked a little bit before the show about that, because to live in this county and survive, a high percentage of the households are both working,
That's right.
and I don't know what's going to happen. I know, owning a skateboard shop, kids wander in here all the time unsupervised.
Right.
And I just know that it's going to get worse. And an interesting thing, we had John Leopold on the show the other night, and he was saying how federal government really isn't having any influence or support. The state is supporting and getting some money to the county. Are we ready for what's coming? Do you feel like we're ready?
You know, no. I mean, not really. I think a little bit, but it's something we've never experienced before. I mean, even if schools were back open, they had a hybrid approach to it. So it's still really challenging for working parents to have, you know, adequate childcare or a place for their kid to go.
Right.
We're seeing the mental health issues come about. I mean, a lot of people are experiencing even just sort of the national polls around the mental health and well-being, is, you know, food insecurity, folks just on the brink of losing housing, and I mean, there's a lot of big issues happening. So we're going to have to do our best to mobilize, and I think we've had areas where we can look at where we've seen success, you know, mobilizing around the homeless and the sheltering, looking at how we're going to switch online, getting hotspots to families and kids,
Right.
partnering with the food banks for the schools who are now having kids coming in for the free and reduced lunch, but also the families to get the food. So those are the types of things that we need to build on so that we can try to be ready to help our most vulnerable as we enter this next stage of the pandemic.
When's the election?
Early November.
Do you think they should move it up sooner? Because we need people like you, and these people like you and the other folks you talked about, like they're ready to go to work now, rather than November.
You know, I mean, you'll have to talk to Dale Pellard about moving the election. I think, you know, it'll be an interesting time to have people understand the different candidates that want to serve. You know, the one thing I'd say is, having been on the council now for 4 years, only me and one other council member have had that experience. And the council member who's been on for many years is terming out. So it's nice to have somebody who has some experience to understand how to navigate these things. Not to say, I mean, I've had 3 years, others have served many terms on city council, but I feel really grateful to have had that experience to help inform moving forward. But ultimately, it's going to be about our community mobilizing. It's going to be, how can we partner? How can we work together? How can we leverage resources? And frankly, we've seen really great things come of that, and we're going to need to continue to make that a priority.
Do you change how you're gonna get yourself out in front of the public for this election? Is there how we?
It's just going to be advertising on the up radio show.
No, yeah, but I mean, it's so different now, right? I mean,
So
not gonna knock on doors.
have you been planning this on how you plan to, you know?
You know, super good question, because it's so different. The playbook is completely out the window. It's a totally different approach at this point. You know, I do want to connect with the people, the residents that want to share their thoughts and concerns with me. I want to also respect their health and not go knocking on their doors. And so I'm asking people just to come on the website, to look at the social media, to sign up on the newsletters, and just to stay informed and connected that way. And I'll do my best to sort of navigate the world of social media and other ways to connect with people. You know, when I ran in 2016, you got to knock on doors and you get to hear from people, and they share their concerns. They have great ideas for solutions. You get to know them. They get to know you. And I'm gonna miss that, because I won't, out of respect for their health, I don't feel that's appropriate to do. So, yeah, just the virtual connections, doing the best we can to connect in other ways,
And just so we know, you're on Facebook, right?
Yes, I'm on Facebook, or you post it on my website.
What are people clicking on Facebook? What are they?
So it's at MartineWatkins.com is the website. The
Yeah.
Facebook is, I think, Martine for City Council, and so is and then on Instagram as well.
What's the Instagram handle? It's
Martine for City Council?
Martine
I
for
think
City
so.
Council, I think it is. Yeah,
I think
that's
so.
things you gotta know.
Thank you, I know. You don't have to-
She's
Well,
looking
it's
for.
early in the election
She's looking
process.
for-
I know,
She's
right.
just campaigning right now.
Yeah, I know. I'll have to- yeah.
Celeste's
I'm sorry.
your campaign manager. Celeste's going. Oh
She's
my
like
gosh.
so excited
Is she
now.
watching right now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So she's gonna comment right now.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
gonna be angry
She'll-
face.
I know. But the MartineWatkins.com, I do know that one.
Yes.
So they can get connected via the website.
Well, it's so because it is so different. I mean, look at even in the presidential race. Our president is so used to having his big rallies, and he can't have them now. And when he does, he just kills people. And so it's different now.
Yeah.
And so I guess social media and trying to just do shows like the Off Lip radio show is a great way to get your message across. So besides the health of the county, what do you see as being the next biggest problem that you see coming on?
In Santa Cruz or just in general?
Yeah, in Santa Cruz.
Yeah. I think that the health of the county, the health of the city, and the economic health of our community it's gonna take a while to get back to get functioning again. And reviving our downtown and our businesses, and also just really integrating all of the elements that go into making a healthy community. Like, for example, if we're gonna have more housing downtown and we want more families to be there, but they need childcare. So how are we thinking about in our planning to have childcare facilities be part of that planning conversation? So I think those are the types of things that we want to be having kind of the foresight or sort of the ability to think about. I think that it's gonna be tough, but I think that our systems can really improve. And one of the things that's really important to remember that climate change and shocks to systems happen, right? I mean, we've seen that with Katrina or other types of natural disasters. We know climate change is coming. It's here, and there's the impact of it now, but in the foreseeable future as well. And so when we're planning for health solutions, we're also planning for climate solutions. And how are we being mindful to be kind of a stable city that can be resilient when those shocks and stressors occur? And how are we thinking about our most vulnerable? So for example, if we're thinking about sea level rise, or we're thinking about natural disasters, our beach flats community has monolingual Spanish speaking folks. So how are we planning our strategy around outreaching to those folks? Or how are we thinking about our elderly population? We have a lot of elderly in Santa Cruz. How are we being mindful of how to mobilize them? I mean, we've seen when these natural disasters occur, when it doesn't go right, Katrina is a very good example of that. But what we have right now is sort of this slow, kind of painful, similar stressor right now with COVID. But our systems can be better structured and transformed to be more resilient, as we also know we're going to have these stressors in the future for climate change.
Right.
So those are the things that I'm thinking about. But I love policy, and I'm that nerdy person.
Well, the climate change thing, I always have a series that when the ocean warms up, we could get a hurricane.
Yeah.
And to me, no one's even thought about that. Like, it's not erosion. A hurricane would destroy Santa Cruz.
Right.
And so I worry about climate change myself.
Yeah, me too.
And I always joke that, we've had such beautiful summers. Oh, this climate change is awesome, but no, the future is going to be really scary.
It is really scary. And I think, if you think about the impacts of climate change, the health impacts are the greatest. So when we're thinking about health solutions right now, climate solutions are health solutions as we move forward too.
Supervisor Leopold was talking about the climate situation and what they're doing for what the county's doing for it. Do you guys work hand in hand with the county?
We have probably the best climate change and adaptation manager that I can think of. She's fantastic. Her name's Tiffany Wise-West, and she's doing extraordinary work. It's been noticed, I think, I'd say probably throughout our nation. She's doing a lot of really forward thinking in terms of our climate adaptation strategies, coastal resilience, and and through a lens of equity and trying to think about how are we outreaching and looking at the most vulnerable who are going to be impacted. And it's going to be having a lot of work coming up as we look at updating our plan for 2030. So yeah, we're doing a lot of work, and I'm sure she's in coordination with our county because we're all, you know.
Get her on the show.
We should absolutely get her on the show.
Yeah, she sounds like a great
Super
guest.
rad.
We got Andy Mills, been here a couple of years now, our police chief. Great guy, been on the show a couple of times. Policing has obviously been the focus in the media. Any thoughts on our local police force? Are you content with how things are going? Do you feel like we're going in the right direction?
You know, it's a complicated conversation, I have to say. Like, so I think I'm all for criminal justice reform. I don't think our criminal justice system hasn't been effective. It just hasn't. We've over-incarcerated black and brown people. We've gotten to the point where we have to, you know, because the feds will mandated us to release folks, right? So then, you know, we've had to just react to that over-incarceration,
Right.
the impact and trauma associated with that, the legacy of slavery and racism associated with policing is coming to a forefront, and it's festered because we as a nation have never dealt with our history and had any kind of truth or reconciliation. Our education systems haven't been informed. So I think there's absolute opportunity for us to look at how we're doing things differently. And I think, you know, Chief Mills says the same. It's you know, our fire and our police have been sort of the catch-all by default to a lot of bigger social issues. And and there's a revolving door at the jail, there's mental health issues, substance abuse.
Can you talk about what social issues they are?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we see is a lot of substance misuse, mental health issues, poverty, you know, and then I think pronounced to a certain extent in Santa Cruz, others way more in terms of just communities of color that have been ignored and have had over policing and have had, you know, just generational trauma associated with that, with children incarcerated or, you know, husbands incarcerated, and I think it's not quite as pronounced as you'd see as in an inner city, in a bigger city, but you know, it exists. And at the end of the day, it's sort of, you get into this cycle, right? That's hard to interrupt. But what's happening now is saying, maybe we can do something a little bit different here. And I think we, as a city, have to look at what we can do, but we'll look different than other cities. So, for example, you know, I got family up in Oakland. You know, their school district was contracting with Oakland PD to have school resource officers on their campuses. And having worked in diversion programs through probation for years here, you know, we know that if kids are penalized at school and then penalized in the justice system, it's that school to prison pipeline that we want to interrupt. So those are some of the things that you can kind of go, yeah, like that, let's shift that. Let's do something that's going to be more restorative to our kids to help them be successful in the future. So those are the moments. The thing about, you know, I know there's a movement around the defunding, and I think we as a nation have invested in the militarization of our discretionary funds. Personally, I think, you know, you look at our big budget here as a nation, we spend a good amount on military, and we should be investing in people. And I think in certain jurisdictions there's opportunities to shift, and I think Santa Cruz can look at ours and see if that makes sense. You know, as Chief said, I think it's also we're the city's we're the county seat, right? And we have all the services there, and so it just looks different in Santa Cruz, so we need to look at it, you know, what works for us.
I feel our biggest miss is mental health.
Yeah.
I feel like you look, I love Santa Cruz mugshots. You'll see the guys who hit the 50 mugshot club.
Mm-hmm.
It's mental health.
Yeah.
And I look at it as, instead of 50 mugshots and what that costs, if we invested in the mental health of that person,
Right.
you can make a big change in their life.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're missing that opportunity. There's no funding for it. If we could, where would that money come from, would you say? I mean, is that a state? Is that a federal thing? Is
Yeah.
it county?
You know, yeah. You know, it's all of the above, I'd say. But, you know, the cities, we don't have social services there. So, you know, maybe there's 2 cities, I believe, in the state of California that actually have
County only.
They have social services. So it's outside of our wheelhouse, right? And so, you know, when we're talking about these big issues around, you know, how do we address the mental health issues? How do we address the substance abuse issues? How are we addressing sort of the revolving door of the jail, right? that's the conversation that we need to have with our county and with our other partners, because we don't house mental health, we don't house mentally ill folks, you know, and we don't do substance abuse. I mean, we contract and try, but that's where if we want to truly change that that partnership has to exist. That's the only way to do it. And so, and I think it's the right thing to do. It's probably the most economically efficient thing to do. So, it's the socially just thing to do. So I think, you know, there's an absolute window of opportunity for us to try to do that with the movement that's
But
happening.
that's gonna come from way up higher up top.
You know, I
Right?
kind of
And then we're stuck with the guy who's leading the country.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
Who needs to be in mental health?
who needs to be in mental health himself?
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, the one thing I'd say, though, about that is, you know, part of local government is this ability to be innovative and to be sort of like this, like, way to scale up something awesome. So I feel there is also potential for us to try to just do what we can here locally, to partner, to try to just create what might work for our community, and then maybe that will catch on, you know what I mean? I kind of gave up on the state and the feds, you know, doing it for us. At a certain point, you gotta just, you can do what you can with what you got.
You're saying a lot what John said the other night about, you know, we're gonna take care of stuff here at home,
Yeah.
right, TC?
Yeah,
Not worry about what the feds are doing. We're gonna take care and deal with the resources that we have, and take care of our own neighborhood now.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
nothing's coming down the pike from Sacramento.
Right. I mean,
So-
that's right. I mean, and you can see and feel, and I mean, those are your people, and I think, I mean, that's right. He's absolutely right about that.
And it's tough because the pie is not big enough for the appetite right now.
And it's shrinking, you know. And I think, you know, one of the things we'll have to get creative with it, right? I mean, working from home has led to less, you know, emissions on our freeways, and I mean, there's just things that we have to think about. It's going to be hard. Don't get me wrong. It's going to be tough because our budgets are just depleting.
And nothing's happened like this in 100 years. What future generations are going to learn from the results that you, as a, you know, signing on to be run the council and possibly be the mayor, 20 years from now, the people who follow you are going to look back and learn how you dealt with this
And
crisis.
they're gonna understand that we're lucky to have her too.
Well, hopefully we're going to come out of this strong
Yeah.
and can lead by example. But it's so unknown. The last time, it was 100 years ago, we dealt with something like this.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be really tough. And I commend you for being a part of it, because it's kind of like getting thrown back in the fire.
What the hell are you doing?
I know, you know. I mean, the future generation they remain my motivation. They depend on good leadership right now in this moment for us to try to build a sustainable community for them to inherit. So if I keep my eye on the prize, the rest is noise, you know?
Well, because it's not a get-rich scheme you're doing.
No.
It's not, I mean, it's like, you're doing this because you love this town.
I do.
And that's very commendable, because it's a difficult job. And
Let me ask you this: I'm going to talk about my son for a second, TC, and you've got kids too. My son's age, and my son's 29 years old. He's engaged to be married, right? But he's getting married in October, which likely will not happen. I don't think they're just over 2020. They want nothing to do with 2020.
Yeah.
But do you think, you know, do you think they should go ahead and have kids at this point? I mean, should they, you know,
Yeah.
would you introduce a child to this world?
You know, I think, yes, I do. I mean, if they,
And you're a new granddad.
yes, I
brand,
am.
brand new. You know.
I am so happy that kid. Listen, yes, they should have kids,
Okay.
yeah,
because there's beauty everywhere.
that's
Yeah.
right.
And you just have to teach the beauty. And if you don't have the ability,
Yeah.
then maybe you should reconsider. But if you have the, this is not to jump on
love
your
it.
advice,
I love it. I
but
love
if
it.
you have the energy and the passion,
Yeah.
by all means, that child will be in the best hands ever.
Right.
That's right.
Right.
And you know, the kids are so rad right now. I mean, like, for example, my 5-year-old is like, I didn't know plastic straw is really bad for the environment from the Capri Sun that she got. You know, they're thinking about things that I didn't even think about.
Right.
We didn't even know about.
Give me a straw.
I mean, they're amazing, and the movements and the energy that they're bringing to the social justice causes that they're advocating for, it's awesome. So I'm like an optimistic person. So that's just
Yeah, you
I'm
are.
like yeah, for sure. So I'm hopeful.
I also see a lot of kids don't really understand what's going on. To them, it's just kind of a normal day for a lot of them. You know, here at the skateboard shop, every day the little guys come in here, and the greatest moment of their life is getting a new skateboard. It's like the simplest of times for them. And my biggest concern is like what we talked about, is having the resources for mom and dad to work. I worry about these children running around loose. I've seen it many times that when they're not watched or mentored, they can take the wrong fork in the road, often around junior high school. So my biggest concern with the schools going remote and no daycare situation
lack of
and the
leadership.
lack of funds for parenting, I'm a little concerned for the future of this generation, because I feel like, especially here in Pleasure Point, we had a couple of rough generations. The current generations of young kids are awesome.
So that's my concern for you coming into like a situation like that, is how are we going to take care of these kids that aren't going to be parented?
I know, and just so you know, the school districts, the superintendents, they're thinking about this. They're doing the best they can. I think, trying to figure out the various scenarios, what's going to work for the families. I think part of it is also looking at it through an equity lens, which they're applying with what kids need: stability, foster youth, homeless youth, students with IEPs and special needs. Like, how are we getting to the kids that need the most supports?
Right.
That's the lens they're applying.
Right.
And it's just changing so freaking quickly. It's like you get it from the state, oh no, you're good, like reopen, and then it's like, no, like we're closed. Like, I think, they're just trying to mobilize as best they can. That being said, we already had a child care shortage. That's a huge issue. Neglect and stresses around poverty and family stresses, that only is exacerbated in these types of times. So how are we thinking about that? The wraparound services that we're investing in to try to identify and navigate our families towards is sort of the goal. And then just helping them with their mental health needs after this. I think also just there will be an impact around how this has impacted their brain development and how are we supporting them there. So just mobilizing those, wraparound whole child services is really the way to go.
Just really quick too.
Sure.
You really sound like an expert.
She is.
And so to the people watching on Santa Cruz Waves, I know your day job is in education.
Right.
And so a lot of your background, you think about this all the time.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
so just so you guys know out
Yeah.
there in Santa Cruz Waves, she's an expert in this field.
So
I'll just add though, I'll say, my dad was the superintendent here in Santa Cruz for years. My husband's a teacher, my mom's a teacher.
So you are
and
a
I've worked in
super,
education for 15 years.
you're a super expert.
So I got a lot of education in my life.
Now that sounds to me like as being
On the council of the city of Santa Cruz, you really could add, and I'm not endorsing you for this, I'm just saying, what a great asset you could be to the council for having such a great background in education.
Honestly, I feel so grateful for what it's done for me these past 4 years. So, for example, like the city of Santa Cruz was the first city to ban flavored tobacco, which is targeting youth. One of the first things I did when I was on council was championing a children's fund out of some revenue, the new revenue source from the cannabis dollars. So now we have a children's fund established to go to our vulnerable youth and helping them get into some of our parks and rec programs, as well as early childhood education. So I am so grateful for the background that I have because I'm able to apply it to how I do policy as a council member. And it's a voice that's often not there because people have kids and their moms and they're, it's hard.
right.
Do you speak for a lot of your family? I mean, do you the whole family get together and go, give you words of advice or directions to take?
The mini mayors do. My daughters, Evie, 9,
Mini mayors?
the mini mayors, Winnie 5. They tell me what's up. They tell me what to work on, and they're helpful. It's helpful to have that input.
And is your father still here?
Yeah, my dad's still here. He's
Okay.
out baptized. They're with the girls now. They've become part of our bubble. We got tested and big part of our life. And he was the first African American superintendent elected in the state of California. And still does a lot of really great work around equity and education throughout the state.
What a great phone
Friend for you, huh?
Yeah, well,
Yeah, right? I
amazing.
mean, it really, because you need to have all the resources you can in
I
politics.
feel so grateful.
That's
I'm really
amazing.
blessed by that.
How far are you going? Are you going? I mean, you're still very young. Are you going to Sacramento? Are you going up? Are you going to the top? Or
I don't know. I don't know. I just, I like policy. I do.
Well,
politics is part of it.
when we talk to you, you get all fired up. Huh,
I know.
TC?
She does, I know, yeah, she's like, I know, she's totally into it.
I know. I'm super excitable. I get super excited about the things that I'm passionate about. So, I try to, trust and I try to do the best I can. And I think you push yourself and I never thought I would get through what I got through, and I pushed myself and I grew as a human, and I'll just continue to try to do that in a healthy way, you know, as best I can.
Well, I'm gonna vote for her.
Thank
You can
you.
vote.
Oh, that's right, I can't vote for her.
Yeah.
That's right, she's in the city, that's
I
Oh,
right.
you're up in Upton.
Yeah. See, we're county
Yeah.
guys, and so.
I grew up out there.
Do you have people on the council that are endorsing you? Are there some big people endorsing you as you go into this race?
You know, I'm still seeking endorsements. Yeah, you know, our current superintendent of schools endorsed me, and he's great, Ferris Sabah, Dr. Ferris Sabah. Got my dad's endorsement. You know, Ryan Coonerty, supervisor, Zach Friend, supervisor, Bruce McPherson, supervisor, have all
I
endorsed.
think Boardroom might be
Santa
her.
Cruz Boardroom endorses, yeah.
thank
Martine
you.
Watkins for council, yes.
Awesome, thank you, thank you.
Financially, is that a burden? I mean, are you going to print a bunch of signs for people's lawns, and
Yeah.
is that something you fundraise for?
Yeah, it is part of it. You know, fundraising is always really hard for me, and it was really hard for me the first time around, just because, you know, there's so many good causes to give to. You're like, you know, but somebody told me recently, and it really felt right, like, when you're actually contributing to you're contributing to our shared values and goals. And so when I look at it like that, it's not quite as hard, you know? And so I know there's so many people struggling, and there's so many great organizations to give to, and I think of myself as representing something that is our shared values and goals that hopefully people will want to contribute to, because by doing so, we're contributing to the betterment of all people. So, but it's a part of it, you know, getting your name out there, letting people know who you are and your mission and so on.
So once again, people watching, MartineWatkins.com.
MartineWatkins.com is my
Okay.
website.
You got Martine,
Martine Watkins for council.
Martine Watkins for City Council.
For City
is
Council.
that Instagram?
Instagram.
And Facebook.
So Instagram, right, yes.
Yeah.
We'll put those on our
Yeah, I'm
social
gonna
media.
put them up.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a total foul for me not to
Did
have
you-
that memorized at this point. I
Yeah.
apologize for that.
That's
But
stuff-
MartineWatkins.com is the website, and you can link to it that way.
And is there a way that people can donate to your campaign? Is it
Right, yeah.
On the website?
Through the website, and you know, we'll get some envelopes printed when we get some funding kind of in the coffers there, and get those out there to the community too.
So there's 4 seats that are going to be open
In the council, do we know how many people are running yet? Is
You
that
know, they have till I think August 7th to file, so we'll find out. You know, by then. I think there's a good amount, maybe about 6 or so that I know of. A lot of women running, which is awesome.
and very common in today's world.
And very common in today's world, and is needed in terms of representation and leadership. So, yeah, we'll see how it all plays out.
With your current job and with the way the future is with homeschooling, does your job change? Do you see a big change?
You know, my job I've been one of the fortunate folks who've been able to my life has turned to online Zoom meetings and sort of shared Google Docs, and I've been able to evolve that way. It's still hard, I'd say, and it's, you know, I have a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old, and then they have, you know, when school starts back up, their Zooms and trying to manage that. You know, I just, you know, like a lot of parents, you're just sort of struggling to do the best you can with what you got, and you know, I'm lucky to still have a job and be able to work from home.
Remember John Leopold said he puts a tie on for his Zoom meetings? Do
Yeah.
you dress up for your Zoom meetings?
Are you in PJs in Zoom meeting?
Well, I
What
know.
do you wear?
I put on jeans. I was like, there's so much money here. Like, I've been wearing my yoga pants, you know, and I got like this little, because it's hard to sit there for this. So I got like a little like
Now,
stepper thing that I can.
Have you done
During the Zoom meetings?
Have you done a Zoom meeting in pajamas?
In pajamas.
We ask all our
Probably.
guests that now. It's like our new question.
I'll tell you the habit. I do it in my backyard because I don't really have like a good office, so I'll do it in the backyard with like a virtual background.
Yeah.
And I'll definitely have my shorts and my thongs on.
Right.
And I usually look like, you know,
Yeah,
proper
professional.
from this.
Perfect.
Sandals on the bottom, casual on the
Yeah,
bottom,
like
dressed
laying
up.
out
Sandals, shorts,
in the sun,
yeah.
legs in the sun, and Zoom on the front. You know?
That's our world down
I
here.
know,
I
right?
know. I mean, I feel blessed.
So once you get elected, top 3 things that you want to address are right away. Boom.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, once I get elected, I mean, it has to be recovery and thinking about how we're going to recover from the pandemic. You know, right away, I guess I'd say managing the budget and trying to figure out how to draw on our community resources, draw on state and federal resources, work with the county, and continue to try to mobilize right now on how we can best serve our community during this pandemic. And it's a delicate balance between, you know, the public health and the economy, and a lot of it's actually also out of our control. And then moving forward, just really trying to get at improved systems that are going to meet some of these big issues that continue to impact our community. And so, you know, homelessness, how are we really looking at what lessons we've learned from this pandemic and use those to improve our systems moving forward? You know, downtown, a lot of housing coming online. How are we, a thriving downtown is an indicator of a thriving community. And so how are we doing in terms of supporting our downtown? And then, you know, education and childcare and all of the partnerships that we need to have in place, you know, a total priority. You know, we're also, as I mentioned, being, you know, sued, so we're likely going to be going into district elections. That's going to be a real
Who's
process.
suing?
So a voter is suing, and basically the fair voting rights. There's an act here in California that has said if you don't have, you know, if you are at large a community or city, and that means anybody can vote for whoever, and you don't have your majority minority population represented on the council, then you're not allowing for that opportunity, for those opportunities to occur for folks. And so that's sort of the premise, and so that's led to districts being formed. So for example, Watsonville is a district. They used to be at large, and so Santa Cruz is moving in that direction. And that you want to have a real, you know, transparent process that doesn't sort of feel like gerrymandering or sort of, I mean, you want to be really transparent with what could work for our community, have their input and so on. That's a big one. I mean, that's
Would it be like dividing the city into different areas, and there'd be a council person for each of those?
Yeah.
Instead of the city as a whole, it'd be neighborhoods.
Yeah. And the hope is that by doing so, we'll have, you know, some representation from our Latino community on the council, which we haven't, frankly. And I believe that the intention behind that legislation is to do that. And so hopefully that's what it results in. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Been a good show, TC.
Very
She's very
informative.
Yeah, no, I
She's
think
good.
you're a shoo-in.
Oh,
Yeah,
thanks, guys.
congrats.
Thanks for having me
Yeah.
on.
You're shooing.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
very, very much for coming on the show.
Thank
And-
you so much for inviting me.
I'm proud of you for
Yeah.
going right back into the fire.
Hey, thanks.
I mean, it's like you rescued the baby and got him out of the fire, and we're going back in for another
When I
one.
saw that on Facebook, I'm like, what the heck
We gotta figure this
is
out.
she doing? I texted you right away.
What are you doing?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And so, like, the big vacation's gonna be put off for 4 years, and like you're just you're gonna save Santa Cruz and then take care of your fun later.
You know, I don't want to not be a part of my life. You know what I mean? And that's my goal is like going out, like learning how to surf with my girls, like going out fishing, trying to take a good day here and there. Just doing, you know, yes, I take a lot of vacation time to actually do council time, but you know, I do hope to kind of just try to be really present with all that beautiful Santa Cruz offers, and how blessed I am with like a really incredible
Very cool.
life and family. So
If currently we're doing Zoom council meetings, right?
yeah.
And then is that gonna change in the near future? Maybe not, right? Who
You
knows?
know, I think, you know, it's hard, the Zoom. You know, you'll for me, I like have to do the virtual because I have like a kid that comes in and like swings by and like slides out, and I'm like, whoa, like, you know, it's like that, you know. And I think it's, you know, there's a way that I think it's really allowed access for more people to engage in civic life, and then it also is sort of difficult because you're now phones and like, oh, you're muted, and I mean, you know, that kind of experience. Frankly, it's really hard to stare at a computer for freaking 12 hours and like, you know, and deal with that. But think about it's a great technology we have in place to help protect people's
It's your only
safety.
choice.
Yeah,
Well, and it seems like
yeah.
maybe there's fewer distractions, and maybe you could be more productive during that time.
Yeah.
Seems like there's a lot of distractions at the live council meetings.
There's, you know, you know, you want to allow for, you know, adequate processing input and, you know, and how the mayors decide to run the meetings. That's your role. You know, how you facilitate the meetings and keep things going. And
People can't call you names on Zoom.
You could be like, oh, no, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. I'm not the mayor, so I can't do that. Right? They have the power to do that. Yeah, whereas you know, it's like you just turn off their thing. There's a lot of, you know, theater a little bit with some of the antics that kind of would take place. A lot of, you know, the same folks that would come in.
Very cool. Well,
Very
thank you
cool.
for coming on the show.
Thank you, Martine.
She may be,
Yeah.
she may be doing some advertising on the show.
Fantastic.
She may be doing it. We'll see.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll hope to see some more of that, and
Thank you.
best of luck.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for having
seriously.
me. Thank you.
Yeah,
You guys,
good
you
luck.
guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who are we supporting? Captain John Rivera is from Cobalt Banker. I think he's on his way to Wyoming. Got himself a van, I saw.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's
Good
doing
for
some
John.
van life.
All right.
Chill Out Cafe, where our next show is going to be Sunday night with the Joint Chiefs.
And they roll the fatties.
Joint Chiefs played last night. Boy, were they good.
They're great.
Man,
Yep.
they were good.
Love them.
Sean Roback from Farmers Insurance. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Sean.
462-3222. I want to thank Fig from Surf City Sandwich.
Awesome. Kayak Connections. Are they
Kayak
they're still
Connections open. Kayak Connections
Yeah.
still open. You can go get a kayak at the harbor or at Elkhorn Slough. I want to thank
Beautiful.
Numa from Aloha Island Grill.
Numa.
I want to thank the listening staff.
Yep.
How your ears doing, TC?
They're actually pretty good right
Are you
now.
going to surf? Will you ever surf again?
Yes.
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 You will surf again.
Yes, I will.
I want to thank my buddy Ed from Rogue Pies. Can you see I've been eating Rogue Pies?
Yeah, I can
Dude.
see that. Let's show everybody. Look at that.
Everyone else, obviously, who am I missing?
That's everybody.
Oh, People's Coffee. I want to thank
Curtis.
Curtis from People's Coffee. Supports the
Beautiful.
show forever.
Yes. Yep.
And anybody else who supports the show, we thank you. And you can catch the show tonight on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Pandora, iTunes, and a lot of other places on AlternateRadio.com.
Thank you, everybody.
Martine Watkins, thank you so much. Vote for her. She is awesome.
Thanks, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Oh.